Welcome back to From the Depths. So this is another look at the Dancing Starlight laser destroyer. I wasn't too satisfied with the previous video, so I'm gonna try to make a more condensed version of this. Just showcase its capabilities and design choices. So here we can see the first iteration of this ship. It's quite old and there's many design flaws, but one of the main features is that the laser charges up for a very long time and then fire a burst to try to concentrate the damage into a single spot. It's one of my first attempts at making a laser attack vehicle of this type. So yeah, it's kind of an experiment into making a large airship. The benchmark for this ship is a very similar cost class of the lightning hoods, the Megawatt. As you can see, each laser pulse digs quite deep through, just through the internal layers of the Megawatt. I'd say my ship is hugely inspired after Border Wise's attempt at making the laser sniper as well. Very similar type of idea, but maintaining a long range. You can see the damage, lots of exposed components. Doing fairly well. However, after making that initial design, I learned to make railguns and just get good with a few other weapon systems, and had newer airships that vastly outperform this laser sniper. So I decided to convert the ship into a fleet escort role, also due to some experiences in the campaign with nuclear weapons. Just getting the better hang of my other more advanced sniper units, I decided to convert the laser ship into a fleet escort protection unit, and I finally finished up the interior as well. So you can see the command area earlier, and here's the internal space with the low kitchenette, the table, the bunks, and then this control room module. It is actually possible to fully walk out of the ship as well. Yeah, there you go. So let's see the Megawatt test again. So now the laser has been, well, first a lot of the initial design flaws have been rectified, such as engine and exhaust ports being blocked and or jet engine intakes being blocked. Just very silly stuff like that. I think 80% of the interior has been redone to accommodate a steam engine instead of a fuel engine, just because I have a more efficient steam engine setup. Finally, and most obviously, the laser has been changed to a zero Q system to have more penetrating power against enemies that actually deploy smoke, but it has a dual mode firing where it will fire in a burst against a large enemy, but it will fire continuously against smaller targets. Let's see how it's doing against this Megawatt. So, not penetrating as deep on each pulse as before, but it's still trying to concentrate the firepower on a single point, and it's doing a slightly less good job at piercing into internal components, but it's still acceptable level of penetration. Yeah, so this is a Perseus. It is about 50 times more expensive than this craft, but I actually had a little bit of an issue with this craft in the campaign. So let's see how it does. So one of the key features of the Perseus is that it's one of the cheapest available and earliest nuclear crafts, or rather a craft that continuously spawn nuclear weapons, which could be quite dangerous even if you have a moderately reliable way of intercepting nukes. You do want to be quite reliable because yeah, you're rolling the dice again and again. So what the Dancing Starlight does is that it prioritizes the smallest targets first, so they will always prioritize the suicide drones for nuclear weapons. And when it detects that the primary target is a small craft, it will actually change the firing mode to fire continuously, rather than maintaining a burst like it's doing for the main craft. And so you ask, how is this done? Because we're on above the laser regulator block, and the laser regulator block allows you to charge up your laser energy and fire in a burst, but there's no way to modify the laser regulator once it's set up. So actually this Dancing Starlight craft do not use a... that was an interesting flight path for the nuke. So the Dancing Starlight does not use a laser regulator, actually. It uses Breadboard with a timer to control the pulses, and one of the input to the Breadboard function is the target volume, so it has different firing profiles based on that input. So after a while of searching, I finally found some intermediate-sized targets. As you can see, there's an intermediate firing profile as well. Between the full charge of 20 seconds and the continuous firing mode, this is an intermediate charge, just against some moderately evasive medium-sized targets. Yeah, it is a compromise, but as you can see, it's quite effective. The ship also can tilt to angle up to fire at those targets. I believe it has lost control and it is not able to turn to face us. I think we can end this demonstration before it gets too out of hand. So now I can, in all fairness, I should show you something that that we do kind of struggle a bit against, which is something like this, which is a full almost 70% more expensive than we are. And we'll also showcase some of the defensive features of this craft, of being able to evade missiles with warp drive. So my crafts usually use every possible means and technology that's available for the defense. Obviously no cheesy tactics, but any normal intended function in the game and system is utilized. Because this is more of a fleet protection craft that prioritizes defense other than single burst damage, it will turn its main weapons on missiles of a sufficient threat level. So basically large missiles that's coming in. Yeah. So it cannot get a lot of damage into that Manticore, but it is not intended to function on its own, and it is doing fairly well at mitigating all of the damages the Manticore can throw out as well, just by intercepting all the missiles with its main weapons, the lamps, and the secondary. Let's see. Does take some hits, just because the warp drive is not fully charged, but yeah, a couple of layers of defense, and it's not quite a foolproof missile screen, but it does its job well enough anyway. Just like any design, a complicated system, it's just a large number of compromises slapped together. So here we can have a look at the internals and the stats. So basically 230k is a bit on the expensive side for a destroyer, especially when it's dedicated to protection. It is actually even more expensive than the railgun sniper craft at this cost bracket, but it does do a few different things, so I'm happy with the versatility of just having a lot of functions in one craft, and okay with the expense. The firepower of the laser is 100. It is not very strong, but it is quite reliable, just having a high AP value. You can see, you can find the AP value, yeah, it's about 200, so it has some limited ability to shoot through smoke. Has a top speed of over 100 meters per second, so as a warship, an aerial warship, it's quite capable of getting to strategic, fulfilling the strategic requirement of, being where it's needed to be in a timely manner. Because this is a slightly older design, the EMP protection isn't too great, but as long as we avoid most of the EMP missiles, for campaign purposes, this is quite acceptable. There's a very limited amount of explosive ammunition storage in the craft, just because of most of its systems are based on lasers, which is because lasers are quite bulky, the armor is not very thick, but at least there's a bit of survivability in terms of not being super volatile. Let's see if I can show the steam engine. So this is a steam engine. There used to be a injector fuel engine, which I replaced on this region of the craft. Everything's so jam-packed together, it's kind of hard to see where everything is. The steam engine is kind of, it's basically shut off outside of combat, and it's relying on the custom jets generators to funnel some power to the hover jets to keep it up in the air. But once combat starts, the valves of the steam engine will open and it will have full power for the shields, which the shield have arcs set up as well, so it will only turn on the side facing the enemy. Yeah, here's some of the warp drives. It's quite small. It's a very secondary function, or rather quaternary form of missile defense, the force level basically. There's a missile identification system which I stole off of the Singularity. What the system does is it identifies and provides a channel input when it detects a large missile, so the warp drives will only activate against a large missile within a certain vicinity and not against just any missile. So the duct work on this craft is quite complex, but basically there's just to get the most efficient forward speed possible, the forward jets run along the entire length of the craft, and then there's a generator that converts it to power outside of combat and uh, to forward momentum in combat when the steam turbines turn on. Here are some extra smart turbines hidden away just to provide some power to fuel some energy, to fuel the warp drives. Yeah, and then the lamps generator is here. This is the stats for the lamps. It is not particularly strong because it's not really intended to activate very often. Just relying on, again, range and speed to avoid most of the damage that we're expected to see. So before I forget, this is what the breadboard looks like. It's actually very simple. These inputs are based on detectors laid around throughout the ship. If multiple conditions are true, then it will give a input to trigger the warp in certain directions. These detectors are placed on top and bottom of the ship just to trigger first when the missile is above the ship or below, to better control the direction of the warp. And then if either top or bottom has been triggered, then the rear warp drive will trigger as well to move the ship forward. It's been a very long time since I looked at this, so may have some mistakes in my explanation. No, K, O, and L are based on ACBs that identify the volume target. And then there's a continuous running timer that says, should I be firing or should I not be firing? Or rather, it disconnects the local weapon controller to allow the weapon to fire. So yeah, and these times are based on studies I did with the laser charge cycle. Well, there you have it. Here's the Dancing Starlight escort destroyer. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for some of the more interesting future designs.